All right, my story is on a new book by Fox News anchor Chris Wallace on the final months before the U.S. dropped the atomic bomb. It's called Countdown 1945, the extraordinary story of the atomic bomb and the 116 days that changed the world. It starts with Harry Truman becoming president and finding out the U.S. was secretly developing a new weapon. The book is published by Avid Reader Press, an imprint of Simon & Schuster, which is a division of Viacom CBS. Chris Wallace joins us now. Chris, good morning. I want to get to your book in a sec, but I want to start with... Welcome. Thanks for being here. I want to start with some of the events that occurred over the weekend. We had Colin Powell announcing that he was going to vote for Joe Biden. We have, of course, last week General Mattis criticizing the president he served. You saw Mitt Romney marching in a protest and saying the word Black Lives Matter. And then George Will came out in a column basically saying the whole Republican Party needs to be rebooted. Now, some of these people obviously have been critical of the president in the past. But do you think there is something happening here?
Well, there's certainly something happening in the top levels, the establishment of the Republican Party. You do see some people breaking with an incumbent president. Think about that. This isn't Donald Trump, who was just a candidate 4 years ago. He's the Republican president. So that's quite impressive. On the other hand, if you do look at the polls, the president still has tremendous support from the Republican base, 80, 90% of Republicans support him. So I don't think there is a real stampede away from the president and the party. There certainly is a stampede, or at least a bit of a runaway at the top levels. But, you know, I think Donald Trump would say, I never had those people with me anyway, and I suspect he'll use it to say to his base, you know, I'm with you guys. I'm not with the elite of the Republican Party.
Chris, we've all been watching the protests. They continue. They were significant this weekend in Washington again. Do you think it's different this time?
Well, that's, you know, the big question I keep asking myself, because, you know, we're all veterans, you and Gail and Tony and me, and we've seen this story before, whether it was Rodney King or Eric Garner or Michael Brown in Ferguson, where, you know, there is a case of alleged, or in most cases confirmed, undue police force and protests, some of them turning into riots, and calls for reform, and frankly, nothing much happens. And that's the big question here, and I don't have an answer to it. Will things happen? The House Democrats are going to propose a bill today that includes things like more transparency, some kind of register for police who have misconduct claims against them, maybe take away some of their qualified immunity. But will that get through Congress and the Republican Senate? I'm not sure about that, and I'm not sure how much of a difference it'll make. So we'll have to wait and see. But being a little bit of a skeptic, I think it's more likely that we're going to see this story tragically again sometime in a couple of years and say, now we need to make some changes.
One of the things I was struck in reading your book, Chris, Countdown 1945, and it reads like a thriller, by the way. It really does, because you have the new president, Harry Truman, coming into office and not even realizing that an atomic bomb was under development, and suddenly facing whether he should use it or not. And one of the things that struck me is there's an extraordinary amount of unity in the government as they consider this decision, isn't there?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, as you're researching and then writing a book of history, you're always comparing it to current times. And one of the things that really struck me was the extraordinary unity. We were in the middle of World War II, but whether it was the top military, the top scientists, the top politicians, or just folks on the home front, they were all pulling together. And one of the astonishing facts is that for 3 years, the Manhattan Project was underway. 125,000 people at Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and out at Los Alamos in New Mexico, Hanford, Washington, Wendover, Utah, and not a single bit of the project broke. Now, obviously, they didn't have the internet or social media things that we have today, but it was a secret, and it stayed a secret because everybody was on the same team. Boy, could we use that now.
Yeah, and Chris, Truman was very methodical. You point out about his decision making. He took counsel from everyone, including generals who disagreed. Correct?
Yeah, this is one of the things that I really appreciated about Truman. First of all, it was meticulous. The choice was, do we invade Japan or do we use the atom bomb? Maybe the biggest decision any president had to make, and he sought out advice from everybody. He has lunch just a few days before the bomb is dropped with Dwight Eisenhower, the Supreme Allied Commander. Eisenhower says the Japanese are already going to surrender. We shouldn't be the first country to unleash the bomb. Now, Truman didn't follow his advice, but he didn't hate it. He didn't yell at him or throw him out of the room. He welcomed it. He wanted the best, straightest advice from everybody around him. But he said, when I make the decision, you back me.
Right. Chris Wallace, it's a fascinating read. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Countdown 1945 is on sale tomorrow.